Hello and welcome to Bosch Professional Live. I'm Chris Murray. As you can see, Danny's not here, but don't worry, I'm not on my own. Luckily, I've still got Ella behind the desk to help us out.
Hey guys, I'm back. Don't forget, as this is a live stream, like usual, if you have any comments, pop them in the chat below and I can throw them at Chris throughout.
So, normally as per usual, what we want to talk about is we want to talk about the topic at hand, but if you do have any questions about any other topic, perhaps some other products that we've got coming out, or some products that have come out, maybe the previously, like for the recent T1 or beginning of the year, feel free to ask those questions as well, and I'll get to them towards the end. So, normally I'll be asking Danny, what's the topic? The topic today, we're going to be looking at our entire range of our FlexiClick system. And as you can see, we've got the two different ranges here. We've got a system both in 12 volt and in the 18 volt system. So first off, I'll give a quick introduction of what the FlexiClick allows you to do, and then we'll go through some of the different models. Essentially what you've got with the FlexiClick system is the ability to have numerous different machines in one. Typically it's always going to be a drill driver, so these are GSRs, right? And then what you can do is you can swap out the heads and then be able to do different and more complicated applications where sometimes the machine, if you're trying to do something in a difficult place, for example, and you can't get the right angle, your power tool is too long, then having these additional optional heads allow you to get into those really difficult places to do applications that otherwise might be very difficult to do. So, introduction over, let's have a look at some of the first machines. Let's start off with the 12 volt range first. Probably actually one of my favorite ones are going to be the 12 volt because one of the main benefits of the FlexiClick system is that small size and that ergonomics. The first machine I've got here is the GSR 12V-15 FC. Okay, this is our, you say, our entry level, if you can call our FlexiClick system entry level, but this is our starting 12 volt system. If we go through the naming structure, as I said before, it's a GSR, so a drill driver typically. 12 volt, which means yes, it's running on our 12 volt battery platform. Very good with the single layers, the 3s and the 2 amp hours, but of course, it'll perfectly happy with the double stack, so the 4s and the 6 amp hour batteries too. These are particularly good. I know Danny, if he was here, he would say how much he really likes the fact that with the double stack batteries, they sit up really well. So when he's working on things, repairing tools or whatever, he likes to have it like that. But for the time being, I'll use it with just a standard battery because this is typically how you'd receive it, or how typically people run these machines. And you see, without any head, it stands up perfectly fine. If we look at the specs of the machine, it's 12 volt, as I said. This one is the 15 model, okay? And with all our drill drivers, the 15 or the numerical value is always denoting the Newton meters or the torque that machines have. Typically with a drill driver, you want to know how much turning force you've got because that will determine, particularly in wood, how big a hole you can drill or how tight you can tighten a fixing. This one is 15 Newton meters of soft torque. We actually now typically use the hard torque value, which is when we name our machines, but back when this machine was released, we were still using the soft torque value. So this is 15 Newton meters of soft torque, but it can do 30 Newton meters of hard torque, okay? If I go through the machine, you'll see you've got your forward and reverse here, as you would expect with all our drill drivers, combis, etc. Of course, you've got a very nice variable speed trigger, so you've got absolute control. You've got a little LED on the front there. If I pop over to maybe the overhead camera, you'll see very simple LED there, helps light up the application you're doing. You'll see on the side there, you've also got a battery indicator because currently we do not have a battery indicator on our 12 volt batteries. If I look at the top here, you'll see we've got our 2-speed gearbox. Speed 1 here is 0 to 400 RPM, and then if you want high speed, then you've got 1300 RPM on the top. You've got your torque wheel here, 20+1, as you'd expect, as well as your all the way around, there we go, to your drill mode there, okay? On the front, you'll see, typically, even without a head, you've got your 1/4 inch hex bit, a 1/4 inch tool holder, so I can just pop in this hex bit here. It's not captive, but it has a small magnet in there that helps keep that bit in there. So even without a head, you've got a nice short drill driver. Okay, so let's have a look at the next machine that we've got up. This is the 15. The next one I'd like to show you machine-wise is going to be the 35, okay? So this is the GSR 12V-35 FC. Now, obviously the machine is more powerful. This is now looking at 35 Newton meters of hard torque. It's 20 soft, but now we've gone to the naming structure using hard torque. 35 Newton meters of hard torque. However, probably the most significant difference with this is a brushless machine. So cut over to the overhead camera again, you'll see we've got a nice label on the top there saying that this is a brushless motor. You'll see in comparison, hopefully you can see, it is a a little bit smaller. Obviously these machines are already quite small, but the 35 being a brushless machine means it's got a little bit more power, but you're not having to have a bigger machine, a much more compact machine. All the features are exactly the same, you're just getting that extra torque from the brushless motor. Okay, what else can I say about this bad boy? When it comes to specs, it's slightly faster. You got 0 to 460 RPM in speed 1, and then if you flip it over to speed 2, then you're running at 1750, 1750 RPM. So more powerful, faster, and because it's a brushless motor, you're getting a more efficient system. So if you're running your 3 or 2 amp hour battery, you're going to get more runtime out of it, because as you know, brushless motors tend to be up to 3 to 4 times better runtime because they are just more energy efficient. They haven't got those brushes. They're constantly getting hot and sparking and basically wasting energy. So a really good upgrade from the 15 if you want a brushless model. Now let's have a look at what you really want to see, which is some of the FlexiClick attachments. As we've pointed out already, that the FlexiClicks can be used already with a normal hex bit, because the tool holder as standard is a hex, 1/4 inch. Internal hex, but we'll go to the first accessory here, which is the GFA 12B. Okay, this is essentially a 10mm auto lock 3-jaw chuck, and how this fits onto the machine is really simple. If I cut to the overhead camera very quickly, you'll see this is your FlexiClick interface. Simply pops on, and then there you go. And then it locks on there. There you go. Trying to keep it on camera there. And you can see there's your little lock and unlock interface. Okay, 3-jaw chuck. As simple as that. It's plastic to keep the weight low, but it's not. It's still nonetheless very robust. These are designed obviously for professional use, so you don't have to worry about these breaking unnecessarily. To remove it, you just pop it into the unlock function and then pull it off like that. And it works just like a normal 10mm auto lock chuck, as you would probably expect from all other models. The next accessory I've got here, or the next part, is going to be the GFA 12X. As you can see, it looks very small, it's very simple, but this is just your 1/4 inch bit holder. But this is obviously captive. So again, if I cut to the overhead camera, gotta line that up, there we go. Okay, lock it on, and now you can see you've got a captive bit holder here. Let me pop in, we've got a multi-construction bit, here we go, I'll pop that in there. Pull the collar back, and then it's captive. Okay, so obviously you can use that with a multi-construction hex bits, or if you've got some screwdriver bits, is typically what you might use it for. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now it's captive, so it's got a little bit more retention compared to just the machine without the heads. Okay, now the other bits that I've got here, which is worth looking at, is going to be something like the GFA 12W. Okay, essentially what you're looking at here is a right angle attachment. You'll notice with this model that there isn't anything on this head except the internal hex. You'll see on the overhead camera, I can pop that in, okay, but it's not captive. It's only got a little magnet that holds it in. So it can be used like this if you want. Really, what we want to do is we pop it on the machine, right? Lock that on, and then we can choose either one of our heads here. So let's, for simplicity, let's put on the hex head. Lock that on, and now we've got a nice right angle captive 1/4 inch internal hex screwdriver bit holder. So that's really useful if you're trying to get into a very difficult space. If you cut back to the main camera for a second, you'll see that obviously if you're trying to get in a difficult space, you can't use the machine in this orientation for whatever reason, then you can just use the right angle. Now, one benefit we've got with our model is the ability to swap it around, or more accurately, how to adjust the head. Cut to the overhead quickly, and I'll show you again how very easy that is. With our model, and I must point out there are other manufacturers out there making similar systems to ours, but as far as I know, we're one of the only ones that have this simple, quick system. With other ones, I believe you might have to remove the whole accessory head there, but with ours, simply pull it apart, no resistance at all, and then rotate it around to whatever desired angle you want. Okay, so that's a real benefit with the Bosch FlexiClick system. Now, let's have a look at one of the last heads that we've got in this range. This one here is the GFA 12E. Okay, as you can hopefully see, let me take my hand off it. Oh, there you are, there you can see it now, there you go. It's an offset. Yeah, so you've got your offset bit. Now this is particularly useful if you are working in kitchen cabinets, or you're a fixer and you're working in very tight spots and you're trying to drive screws or fixings very close to the wall. That's why you'd want an offset adapter like this. And just like the GFA 12W, you have a really quick and simple system to just change the angle, so you don't have to worry about trying to having to adjust the machine to try and get the angle right. It's all about simplicity. It's all about making it more efficient for you to get the job done quickly. Again, I'll pop a screwdriver bit in there. Again, it's a captive 1/4 inch internal hex top here. Okay, there you go, and then you can make your simple adjustments. In theory, let's have a look. Here's your angle head. I say in theory, I don't know why I say in theory, I know you can do it. Now this is one of the benefits of the 12-volt system, is you can have a combination of different heads with the right angle and the offset. They can all be adjusted independently, so if you've got some really difficult place to get to, then hopefully with this combination of bits you can do it. Now I'm wondering if there's going to be questions about how many of these right angles can we link together. We've not tested it. Maybe we'll do an April Fool's, or maybe later in the year we'll work out exactly how many FlexiClick right angles we can put together before you get diminishing power, because obviously there is going to have to be some form of power lost through all these different adapters, but maybe we'll do that for a bit of a joke next time. Now I've done a quick introduction to the main accessories. So these are typically the majority of the accessories or FlexiClick heads that you can get in the standard executions. With many models, you can purchase either one of these machines as is, like this, in a carton, so without any heads. We also sell versions which for the L boxes with the 3-jaw chuck. But probably the one you might be most interested in is the one where you get the majority of the actual accessories. So you'd have things like the offset, the right angle, the 3-jaw chuck, and the GFA 12X. So this is typically what you could get in one of the full kits. But there is one more accessory I'd like to show you. But before we do that, Ella, let's see, who have we got in the chat?
So we do have some regulars in the chat. We've got Marcus, hey Marcus, and Radine.
Good to see you. Good to see you, boys. Nice.
I think you can probably guess what they're asking about in the chat.
Workwear?
Yeah.
Oh. It wouldn't be a live stream without a question about workwear, of course.
Of course not. And PF Cutters is also back, and he's asked a question. He's asked, is there any plans to create a FlexiClick adapter head for cutting PVC and copper tubing while we wait for you to make a 12-volt and 18-volt PVC and copper cutter?
So I actually kind of know what, I've seen alternatives out there in the market that essentially they're using the drill driver drivetrain to power different things like circular saws and little mini cuts and things like that. It's completely within our scope of field. We could do that quite easily, I can imagine. However, I must admit, I haven't seen anything like that yet. I mean, we have, if you actually look at some completely different models of products, if you look in our DIY range, so our green products, with things like, even like the IGSO, we've got different kinds of flexible head systems. I think we've even got things like a barbecue blower, and I think it's got a small fabric cutter as well. So in the DIY side, there are a number of products with different heads, but from the pro side, unfortunately not yet. So I would like to go, yeah, do you know what? We've got something in the works, but not currently, not for the FlexiClick system yet. Unfortunately not, yeah. Any other questions?
Not really a question, but we've also got Danny in the chat, and he said that you stole his line, Chris.
Yeah, I stole it. Oh, so Danny, why are you not here, Daddy? Well, I didn't tell. Danny's up north. He's sunning it up in Bonnie, Scotland, so he couldn't join us today. Clearly, oh, he's allowed to. It's 5:30, so he's allowed to clock off. I was going to say he's clearly not working hard enough if he can get on the chat. But I presume Dan's joined in on the chat, so maybe he might answer. Maybe he was going to ask me some difficult questions too, just to make my life difficult. But maybe he'll jump in the chat as well. He'll try and answer some of the more simple questions or things that can be answered by chat. Otherwise, Ella will just keep picking up the really important, really exciting questions to make my life difficult in Danny's absence. So yes, any questions, pop them in the chat, and we'll either myself, Danny, or Ella will answer them. So if we've got no more questions, we'll keep going. We'll have a look at. We haven't finished with the 12-volt system yet. So one of the relatively new FlexiClick attachments we had for the 12-volt is going to be something like this. As you can probably guess already, this is the hammer attachment. This is the GFA 12H. Okay, so this is the, basically it's an SDS hammer attachment. This allows you now to convert your FlexiClick system into quite a versatile little SDS rotary hammer. I pop it on. Okay. Probably wasn't easy to show you that on the overhead. It goes on exactly the same way. You've got yourself a little belt clip. You've got a little, well, I say little, you've got your standard auxiliary handle here, because remember, you are going to be working in concrete. You want to make sure you don't catch a stone or a bit of rebar perhaps and get that machine spinning out of control. I mean, yes, it's only a 12-volt system, but you know, there's still enough power in one of these, even at only 35 Newton meters of torque, to cause an injury if you're not prepared. So you've got your auxiliary side handle. And you've got the ability here to run SDS plus bits, what have I got here, up to a maximum diameter of 10 mil. Okay, it's important to note when you're running this model that it's best on the 35, partly because it's the brushless motor, but also you would like that higher speed when running an SDS system, and I'll show you why, because of how we've done the internals on this. Okay, so up to a maximum 10 mil working in concrete. Now the system itself, it's slightly different to how our normal rotary hammer, so our GBH, works. Danny, before he left, did us a good favour, and he actually did a cutaway of the GFA 12H. So if I cut to the overhead camera very quickly, you'll see this is essentially what the internal mechanism. So you could say this is a spring-fired or spring-actuated hammer system as opposed to a pneumatic system. As this turns, basically it's compressing this spring here, and then it releases at regular intervals, and that's what's supplying the pneumatic energy to do the basically with the rotary hammer. Because remember, the difference between an impact driver, or sorry, a combi, and a rotary hammer is the way it applies force. Okay, so this drives a weight, a striker that hits the back of the bit inside the tool holder. Okay, it's going to strike the back of this, and it's going to do large hits, as opposed to, say, a combi, which is more rapid hits. So, like a rotary hammer, just a slightly different system in here to deliver that power. And with the 12-volt system, we're delivering up to 0.9 joules of energy, allowing you to do that 10 mil in concrete. So that means now with a complete system, we've got all the different heads you've got here for lots of different applications. Say if you're, again, a kitchen fitter or an installer, you've got all the different heads. And now we've also got the ability here to work in some light concrete drilling as well, which is really good to say, for example, if you want one tool, if you're maybe a facilities manager, or if you work for the council, for example, you don't want to carry a lot of gear, but you want to be able to do the typical applications you would be if you're going to your, like, a client's house. A little small rotary hammer here allows you to do things like your curtain rails and you're drilling into your concrete lintels, or if you want a little bit more productivity when working in bricks. When we get to accessories, we'll talk about some of the options we've got out there, because remember, this isn't a combi, this doesn't have an impact function unless you put on GFA 12H, which then turns it more into a hammer rather than an impact drive. Okay, or an impact combi, I should say, impact drill driver. Right, so the 12-volt system is now, I would argue, quite a comprehensive system with all the different accessories here. You've got two different models. Now, my recommendation is, if you are going to be running the hammer, the SDS Plus attachment, then my recommendation is that you go for the 35. As said before, higher RPM, a little bit more torque, which helps drive this mechanism. It will work with the 15, but you won't get as much productivity. But generally speaking, I say generally, they'll all work on either model. Okay, that's really important to know, that we haven't changed the fitment when we brought out the new 35, and I'd imagine that moving forward, when we bring out newer versions of the FlexiClick, that they will be backwards compatible. I will be able to say that claim when we look over to the 18 volt, for example. A lot of these attachments haven't changed since the original FlexiClick. If I can remember the name of it, I think it was even the 18 VLI FC. Which is a good number of years, and a lot of these accessories came from that model and haven't changed since. They work on the majority of the newer machines too. So it's important to note that if you get started on the FlexiClick system, just like our batteries, then you're going to have that forwards compatibility to rely on as well. Right, so I think in a nutshell, might have covered mostly what we've got here for the 12-volt system. Maybe all I can really talk about is the kinds of people that might like the FlexiClick system. I mean, You guys tell me if you've used one and if you're using one for your trade, but typically these kinds of tools are great for people that are like doing kitchen assembly, bathroom fitters, if you're fixing roof beams, if you're doing things like, as I said, a facility manager, or you're doing carpentry, finish work, for example. Even good if you're an electrician, and although, yeah, electricians, plumbers, gosh, I would say this is probably one of those tools which is a jack of all trades. Everyone wants to have some kind of drill driver or combi. Having these additional heads makes it really easy, again, to do those awkward fixings in really, really narrow spots, because again, let's have a look, I'll pop it on quickly. All right, imagine if you're trying to do something in that much space. If you cut to the overhead very quickly, all right, look how narrow that could be if you're working that close to it. I think you'll find that probably your fixing is going to be probably just as much problems when you're working in a small space from the head. And again, quick and easy rotation there. Okay, so it's all about being able to fit into these difficult spaces. Fixing the bottom of laths, drawers, loads of different applications, so plenty. Right, I think I've rambled on enough about the versatility of the 12-volt system. Before we move on to the 18-volt, Ella, let's see if we got any questions or any comments.
Yep, we've had another question from PF Cutters asking, do you think an electronic angle detection feature, like on your GSB 18-volt 150C, would nicely enhance the FlexiClick drills?
Tell you what, I'd love it if we could have that functionality on a lot of our different machines, especially at least the mid-range and up. We probably won't introduce it on entry level, not yet. FlexiClick typically is a mid-range and above product. I'd love to see it on something like the 35, the brushless model. I haven't seen any plans. I think Danny's always said this in the past, when it comes to technology and innovations, we always see them eventually filter down. Look at kickback control as an example. That used to be only in the flagship models, and then that slowly filtered down to some of the mid-range products like the 90 and the 60, these machines, actually the 60 and the 90. And then when it comes to rotary hammers, then it obviously filtered down to the entry level. So it is possible that something like Angle Detect, for those who aren't familiar, that's the functionality on our flagship GSB and GSR 18V-150C by Turbo machine, that allows you to know if you can set the angle, and it's got a little LED that tells you once you're right on the right angle, but before you start drilling long fixings, for example, or long auger bits. That eventually, I hope, will filter down to the mid-range. But to cut that my ramble short, not yet. I hope to see it soon.
We've had another question come in asking, are we going to produce, again, some small compact hammer drill like the GBH 18Li?
So, sorry, repeat that again.
Are we going to produce, again, a small compact hammer drill like the GBH 18Li?
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking 12 volt there for the moment, but the 18 volt is still a valid question. We've had a number of compact rotary hammers. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it was the GBH 18 VLI CP, I think, the old compact, which had a very unusual shape. I wish I could describe it. It was almost triangular in a way. It was very small, very compact. Strangely enough, I actually didn't get that good feedback in the UK, because people complained it was too light and too small, which was an unusual thing. But now kind of things have changed, and people actually now want machines that are light and small, because that's an advantage, rather than what people thought, the machine's too weak because it doesn't feel right. Okay, it was a lot about preference then. At the moment, the smallest rotary hammer we have is going to be the GBH 18V-22, which was a machine that we launched in the end of last year, which is actually a personal favourite of mine. I really like it. I don't know if we're going to make them much smaller, and partly is because I think the 22 currently is the smallest that we can comfortably make a rotary hammer, 18-volt rotary hammer, that can still have dust extraction applied to it. Because on the 22, you've got the GDE 12-12, okay? It's the little plug-on dust extractor, because as we're seeing, regulations are getting really, really tight when it comes to dust extraction. So it's almost like our duty that when we bring out new products, that it has to cover that as well. Possibly, we might bring out a smaller machine, but because of that legislation, because of how things are moving when it comes to dust management, maybe not. But we have a lot of dust accessories, so maybe that won't be a limiting factor. I haven't seen anything on the roadmap yet for an even smaller 18-volt rotary hammer. I mean, when we get to the FlexiClick system here, you'll see there is the argument that maybe you could get away with a FlexiClick system if you're not needing a purely dedicated rotary hammer. And again, don't dismiss the 12-volt FlexiClick with the hammer, with the STS attachment for a very compact. So it's a very compact system. Remember, it's drilling up to a maximum of 10 mil, and has an impact or pneumatic joule energy of 1 joule. So plenty for small fixings up to 10 mil. But again, I'm not here to BS you. If you want it, it's not a dedicated rotary hammer. So I guess you need to consider that as well.
Not really a question, but I think Dan has joined the We Want Workwear clan.
Oh no, I've lost another one.
He's encouraging people to keep shouting about it, and he's also saying he would love some workwear himself.
Yes, we would love some workwear. Then we could wear it around the workshop. Yeah, it'll save us wearing out our clothes, I suppose. But yeah, the workwear is an important topic that we'll keep making sure that we keep shooting up the ladder. I think it's really important that we produce a good range of high quality workwear. We want the Bosch name out there, of course. We want some high quality workwear. The stuff we had before was pretty good. I've still got a pair of the workwear trousers. I haven't come anywhere near to wearing those out. I'm trying to find an excuse to wear the shorts as well, because they were good too. But unfortunately, no, nothing yet. But trust me, there's a number of things, non-power tool related, nylons, maybe some bags, backpack. No one's asked about the backpack. Trust me, Danny and I are constantly pushing back and saying, look, these are the things that I think will really sell. Workwear is definitely one of them. We're going back to Germany for our annual conference, and we're going to be back there I think we're going back in April. So again, we'll be banging that drum for workwear. Okay, we'll address the bi-weekly workwear question. So we'll move on to the next products, which is going to be looking at the 18-volt system. The first machine I want to bring up and talk about in top line is going to be the first 18-volt machine, which is the GSR 18V-60 FC. Okay, in case I haven't pointed already, FC stands for the FlexiClick system. So obviously a GSR, 18 volts. This one's got a 4 amp hour Procore battery on it, and this is a 60 Newton meters of torque. So that's 60 Newton meters of hard torque. Okay, very quickly, for those who aren't familiar, I'll go through the tools just so you can see it. 18 volt. You've got a little LED on the front here, so I've cut the overhead camera very quickly. You'll see you've got a very straightforward lensed LED. This one is actually a C, so it is a FlexiClick, but you could argue it's F for Flexi and then C for connectivity, because this is a connected product. There's your GCY module here. Okay, variable speed trigger, forward and reverse. Should obviously point out when this came out, this was brushless motor, sorry, when we used to call it EC, electronically commutated, brushless motor, brushless. 2-speed gearbox on the top here, so you've got in first gear 0 to 600 RPM, and then 1900 RPM on the top there for second gear. So as standard, you've got your torque settings, 20 plus 1, yep, 20 plus 1 all the way up to the drill mode. And then just like the 12-volt system, you've got your hex holder. But you'll notice here, as standard, the 18-volt comes with a captive bit holder. So let me just demonstrate that very quickly. You all know what we're talking about here. Okay, captive. So as opposed to the 12-volt, which is a bit more simplified, a lighter weight design with just a magnet, this comes captive as standard. Okay, so this is technically the older model. We've had this for many years, and only recently have we updated it with this next model. Okay, but you'll still find the 60 still out there in the market. It's a great product still being sold. The next machine is the brand new GSR 18V-90 FC. Okay, slightly more power. The 90 is a bit misleading in this particular one. This one is 64 Newton meters of hard torque. The difference in the speed is minor. This is 630 RPM running in first gear, but slightly more speed in second gear of 2100 RPM. Still a brushless machine. If I cut to the overhead very quickly, you'll see there's very little difference in it when it comes to tool length. The 60 is a little bit longer. There's very, very little in it, but the 90 is slightly smaller. Now, what else do I want to say about both these machines? Because it's obviously important that I show both these machines together because they're very, very similar. One thing that I didn't point out is the fact that the 60 has kickback control. I think I mentioned it earlier. Okay, this is you can obviously modify that via the Toolbox app, but as standard, it comes with it comes with your kickback control or anti-rotation control as standard. This means if you are doing any fixings or you're drilling into the wall, and for any unfortunate reason the machine were to snag and start to spin out of control, because this has a sensor in it, it'll automatically switch off. Fingers still on the trigger there, preventing over-rotation and potential injury to your arm, or maybe potentially hitting yourself in the face or throwing yourself off a ladder. So kickback control, we've had that for a very long time. We had it with the 60 FlexiClick. On the 90, this also has kickback control. Okay, it's very, very sensitive and really good. It doesn't need, I'll do that again. It needs very little rotation. So what we've taken the opportunity here with the newer model is to really dial in and focus that algorithm in for the kickback control system, because any rotation will build up a bit of inertia. We want that kickback to kick in as soon as possible, because when you're drilling, that rotation is not something that would happen in normal use anyway. You should be holding it securely when doing any kind of fixing. Sometimes it's not easy to do that. So you are always running the risk, especially if you're working overhead, and that to snag, that could cause an injury. But with kickback control, right, that keeps you safe, that stops you from having an injury, which potentially could stop you from earning for, gosh, how long does a sprain take nowadays? What's that going to be, what, a month, 6 weeks to a month, or a break? You're looking at a minimum of 6 months maybe for a break, and they're not very strong bones in your wrist. So kickback control, we're keeping you safe as we can using electronic sensor technology from our automotive industry. Now, if we've dialed in the algorithm so sensitively on this machine, won't that cause a problem? That's what we always get asked, especially if you're doing some applications, like maybe you'll be doing hole sawing, for example, okay, or something with a bit more friction, a bit more grabby. With hole saws, for example, that can sometimes snatch, and that can cause the machine to twitch left and right a little bit as you're trying to control the hole saw. That would constantly become annoying, for example. So if I cut to the overhead camera very quickly, let's see if I can get the camera to focus, you'll see we've got a little control panel on the bottom, which we didn't have on the 60. The 60 just had the LED. So with the 90, we added this little interface here. I should point out, obviously, the 90 is also connected, so you can make some changes to the tool, and we can actually I should have done that earlier, just switch off that LED so we don't blind ourselves. But the point I want to get at is at the bottom, you see you've got kickback on and off, a physical button which allows you to toggle kickback off and back on again. The LED changes color, it goes to orange to warn you. It might probably hard to see, but it goes to orange to warn you that kickback is off. And then as you see, I put the battery back on, it'll always default back on, right? So that's useful if you, as I said, are wanting to do some hole sawing and you want to be able to manually deactivate kickback control without having to go into the app, which is what you had to do with the 60 FC. So a bit quicker and easier for you to use it. The last thing I want to show is, if I cut to the overhead one more time, is this buttoning here, which is the, let's see if I can get that to focus. There we go, the precision clutch. And I'll talk about that in a moment once I put some of the FlexiClick heads on there. But first, I think, Ella, we've got a few questions.
We've got a question from Radine asking, does the 90 have an electric clutch?
It has the rotation clutch. It has your torque settings as normal, but when it comes to electronic clutch, I imagine that the kickback control system has that. Is essentially that. It's just a different way of describing it.
And once again, it's not a question, but I think it's worth mentioning. Dave says he uses the FC60 every day as an electrician, and it's a brilliant bit of kit. It's so handy to have the attachments and a small bag of hand tools.
Yeah, and remember that's the whole point of the FlexiClick system, is minimizing the amount of extra tools you have to have on there. If you can do your job with one FlexiClick, with a number of heads, whichever one works for you, maybe a number of hand tools like yourself, Dave, that's exactly what we're looking for. Especially if you're working up multiple flights of stairs, or you just don't want to always have to bring all your kit in your kit bag, and see whether or not a FlexiClick as a starter set or a toolkit on its own works for you. Now, okay, back to the 90 FC. I will show what the precision clutch does, electronic precision clutch does. But first, what I have to do is I have to look at some of the different heads that the machine has on there. Should point out the difference between the spec actually. I should go back and very quickly say, obviously the 90 is more powerful than the 60, but when it comes to applications, there's not too much of a difference. Where drilling diameters, for example, with the 60, you're looking at a maximum drilling diameter of 38 millimeters in wood, and you're looking at about 13 mil in steel. With the 90, for example, because we've got a little bit more power in that brushless motor, we can go up to a working diameter of 68 millimeters in wood, and the same in steel, 13 millimeters. So again, if you can get your hands on the 60, please do, but the 90, with the added extra features, that dialed in kickback control and a little bit more power from the smaller but more powerful brushless motor, the 90 is a really great modern machine. Right, let's have a look. What should I use? I think I'll use the 60 to put the FlexiClick heads on. So surprise, surprise, as you know already, you've got your captive 1/4 inch internal hex here, but you need to have a chuck. So here we've got the GFA 18-M. Okay, so this is your 13 mil now, 13 mil standard, all metal, auto lock chuck. And it fits on, I've got the overhead, it fits on in a slightly different way for the 18 volt. It's a bit more robust. So you can see that instead of having a simple click, this one essentially ratchets down there, so that's nice and tight there. Okay, as you would expect, 3-jaw auto lock chuck. This one's a ROM, as per usual with many of our machines, this is a ROM chuck, so high quality. Has a little bit here at the front as well that spins, so you can use that for precision. You can hold on to that spins freely when drilling. Okay, now to remove it, as simple as, comes off there, there's your interface. So it's slightly different compared to the 12 volt. I'll show you. So slightly different mechanism here. So they've upscaled and beefed it up for the 18 volt. So, okay. Okay, back to the overhead, feels very simple there. You see, I'll pop that on, line it up, cinch it down, and then you're done. And again, very quick and easy to remove. Okay, so looking at the next attachment, the next obvious one to have a look at is going to be some of the right angle bits. The next one I got here is going to be the GFA 18W. Okay, this is the right angle but 1/4 inch internal hex. You'll see already there's a difference here. Let's cut the overhead quickly. You'll see there's a difference here between how we do it with the 18 volt and the 12 volt. You notice that we've had to, I think we've done away with, or not done away, we've decided that we didn't want to have separate heads. We wanted to have integral heads for better rigidity and better power transfer. So you can't remove these heads, so to speak. You have your right angle 1/4 inch hex, and I'll show you some of the other ones you've got too. Just like the 12 volt, pops on nice and easy, cinch that down, and again, pull out to turn, and you can see so many different angles, but very quick, but very easy and quick to do that. And then again to remove it. So this will be for your standard screwdriving applications, and as you would expect, a captive 1/4 inch internal hex. Okay, now, just like on the 12 volt model, we have to have one with a chuck as well. Now, I've got a model, I've got one of them here, one example. This is going to be the GFA 18V WB. Okay, so this is an older model of right angle 3-jaw auto lock chucks that I've got. Now, if I pop that onto the 60, you'll see, as you'll expect, nice and quick and easy. Okay, and the ability to adjust that whatever angle you need. Okay, I'm not going to go on about it too much. You all know how a chuck works. Standard plastic chuck here. It's good, it does the job, but there is something a little bit better for the 90 model. So I haven't got one in front of me, unfortunately, but what you will be looking at is the GFA 18V-WM. Okay, so this is essentially a metal version of that plastic one we got there. I believe it may or may not be a ROM chuck. I have to double check off the top of my head, I can't remember, but you're looking at a 13mm auto lock metal chuck designed to work with the 90 FC. The older one would work, but my recommendation is always to purchase the newer one, which has been modernized for the newer model. Okay, but again, you'll see, just like before, it would fit on and give you the same function as you'd expect from the older 18W. Okay, now, surprise, surprise, guess what's next? you've got your offset adapter. So we call this one the GFA 18E, okay? Fits on exactly the same. Quickly pop that on, just to prove how quick everything is. Obviously, when you're working, you're not trying to present to the camera all the time. You can be much faster. But you see, you can adjust that in all the different angles. Quick to remove and quick to put back on again, right? Now, last, well, I say last, this is not new. Of course, you're going to have a rotary hammer attachment to complement your 18-volt system, and this one being the GFA 18-H for your hammer. So this is your SDS rotary hammer, giving you 1 joule of pneumatic energy and giving you the same drilling diameter as the 12, which is 10 mil. Okay, and that again simply fits on, as you'd expect. Okay, and there you go. You got yourself a nice little, relatively compact and versatile system, giving you the ability to drill into concrete up to 10 mil. Really quick, really easy. And again, that's what the whole FlexiClick system's about. Now, let me pop on one of the 3-jaw chuck heads, see if I can do a simple demonstration of how the electronic precision clutch works. Right, let me close this up a bit. Now, I'm going to switch it off first, and this tool is going to act like how you'd normally expect a drill drive to work. I'm going to dial the torque setting down to its lowest setting. So when you're driving screws, for example, you can dial that in so that you can seat the screw perfectly. You don't want to over drill or have the screw sitting proud, okay? Typically what will happen once you've reached that level of torque, the clutch essentially will kick in, the mechanical torque clutch here, okay, and that noise there, the disengagement of the clutch kicks in and makes that noise. Sorry if you've got headphones, but I probably deafened you already. With the electronic precision clutch system activated, you'll notice that even if my finger is still holding the trigger, that the system is now switched off. So it's just a slightly more elegant way of doing things. It's less wear and tear. It's obviously a lot quieter too. Okay. So, and I think we've discussed it in the past by saying that if you do have the more traditional clutch system, that there is the possibility that even though it's disengaged slightly, there is a chance that you might still get incremental, slight turning on the fixing as well, even if you have got the clutch, if you hold it down for a long time. With the electronic system, cuts it dead, and then you don't have that worry. Okay, so a nice little feature again that the 90 has over the 60, so it's a really great upgrade from this model here. Right, what time are we doing? An hour. Nearly an hour already talking about just a few number of tools, but that's the point. They're not just a number of tools. You can say that each one of these products is almost 5 products in one. Let's have a look. Should we pause, Ella, see if we've got any questions?
Yep. PF Cutters has asked another question. He's asking, how about a GCG 300 foam rubber cutter attachment option for the FlexiClick until you make a bi-turbo brushless 18-volt one?
I don't know if we need a bi-turbo brushless foam cutter, but it probably would be good to get a battery-powered one. Again, utilizing the rotary drivetrain of a drill driver to do all kinds of different machines they're all really good ideas. The question really here is how big of a market is there for such a specialist tool, and whether or not it warrants putting it into the FlexiClick system. Currently, as I said, we haven't seen any attachments, but again, that's why we want to have the live stream. We want to collect all these interesting ideas, and every time that we go over to see some of the engineers, we can ask them, is there a market for these kinds of things? So we've got a foam cutter. We had another one from you earlier as well that we can pass up the line.
And another one, PF Cutters has also suggested a paint sprayer attachment.
Possibly. We don't actually have any form of paint sprayer within the Bosch Professional range. Within our DIY, our green products, there are paint sprayers there, but there are also some of our AmpShare Partner Alliance, I think it's Wagner, for example, that are running on our 18-volt battery platform. They make paint sprayers too, but you're not looking for a dedicated one, I can see. You're looking for an attachment, possibly, yeah.
Radine is asking, when is the Bosch Go 3 coming to the UK?
So I think we noticed, or we found out where all the leaks had come from, and obviously there was a very popular Facebook group that had put out some images that we had put that are, I think, some of our other colleagues had an event. I think it was an influencer event, and so a number of the new tools I've kind of already leaked out there. When are we going to be bringing it out? I'm not sure yet. The Go version 3 is also, I've seen another post on that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it'll be before the end of the year. Danny and I have already got a marketing sample of this, an early sample that we've been having a look at and playing with, and we're very impressed. There's been only the Go 2, because technically it's the Go 2, the one that came out in the UK, the blue one, the push drive system. It's a really good machine, really good product. There are a few little things that I think may have been improved with this version 3, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't buy the version 2 yet. Sorry, I should say, that doesn't mean we don't want you to buy the version 2. There's still going to be a little bit of time before the version 3 comes out, but if you want a day, maybe end of year, maybe for Christmas, otherwise it'll be early next year.
Another question, is there a GGC with speed selection?
GGC.
GGS, sorry.
Oh, GGS.
GGS.
It's GGS with speed selection.
Could be one for Danny maybe in the chat.
Danny, can you remember if there's... is this mains or... Ask mains or 18 volt? I presume it's going to be cordless, yeah?
Yes.
So yeah, that's to whoever asked the question. Let's just give us a bit more detail. If not, I'll just quickly look for it. This is usually when it's good having two of us. Danny can chat while I quickly look it up. I'll check that. GGS, maybe an 18 GGS with a speed selection. I'll look it up. If not, if I can't find it by the end of the chat, under the stream, I'll pop it in the comments below.
Dave said a cut-off attachment would be handy on the 18 volt system.
When you say cut-off attachment, for what kind of application? Are you thinking like an angle grinder kind of cut-off tool, a disc turning one? Just feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll get some more details. But yes, exactly. There's loads of really good options that we could put onto the FlexiClick system.
That's all the questions.
Cool, okay. I think I'll just spend a little bit of time just talking about some accessories. I'm not going to get into too much detail because we've talked about lots of different accessories when it came to things like our drill drivers. We've obviously had people like Paul Stevenson from Accessories come and talk about a lot of different accessories. You can see there's always really great stuff, like things that we always recommend, like the Expert self-cut speed bits. These we love demonstrating. As you can imagine from the name, they're Expert, so they are the top of the range. Self-cut because of this spiral bit here. If I cut to the overhead camera very quickly, you'll see here, because it's got the, where is it? Come on, you. There we go. There we go. It's found me. Because you've got the spiral here, that means it pulls it through the material. That's why we call it self-cut. And speed, as you can see, look how aggressive the wings are. The little horns here. These really help drive through the material and really make sure that as it's being pulled through, that all this material is being pulled out the back. It's very aggressive. This is one of the kinds of accessories we recommend you'd want a higher torque machine. So this would really suit something like the GSR 12V-35 FC or either of the 18 volts to really make use of that extra torque that you've got. Yeah, really great accessory. Now obviously this is a hex bit, so you can run these. You can run these in the 3-jaw chuck, or you can pop them into the captive bit holder. It's one of the advantages of having the hex system on some of our accessories. Okay. When it comes to other accessories, obviously we want to make mention of our multi-construction bits. Okay, we've talked about them many times before, but obviously we have them in our cylindrical as well as our hex shank. Different diameters. The cylindrical go up to 16 millimeters. So 16 millimeters on the cylindrical shank, up to I think a total length 70 to 250 millimeters, if I'm correct. And then with the hex, that'll go from 3 to 12 millimeters up to a maximum of 150, I believe it is well. And obviously the advantage with the multi-construction, the fact that these are tungsten carbide, is the fact that these can drill multi-material, concrete, soft tiles, steel, plastic, wood. And the best advantage here is the fact that when you're drilling in these materials, you can basically go from drilling a bit of concrete, bit of wood, and then go and do a nice clean hole in a soft tile as well. So that's really the great advantage and the utility of these kinds of accessories. To a limited degree, they could probably do hard ceramics too, although I can't imagine that they'd last very long, but it would still do it if you're really stuck in a pinch. That is the power of the Bosch carbide technology we've got here. We say it's up to 5 times more accurate as well, because if you cut to the overhead very quickly, you'll see that we've got this precision tip here. There we go, there it is, precision tip. Hard to see, but you'll see that that's really useful when working in really hard materials like tiles. It means that you're not going to worry about sliding around the material. It's really keen and really accurate. Okay, so multi-construction, obviously really important, and then we've also got things like the Hex 9. Getting over to the overhead camera very quickly. This is, if you're working in hard ceramics, then this is what I'd recommend. Hex 9 for hard ceramics, and again, you'll see it's got the 1/4 inch. Let's grab a 60. Okay, so another advantage again of having the hex bits. We can just pop that into any one of the heads, offsets, right angle, whatever. And that's really useful if you're drilling into tiles. Maybe if you're inside a cabinet, for example, and you're wanting to drill into tile for a fixing, or who knows, whatever, I wouldn't know. You tell me, you guys are the tradies out there. Lastly, last few ones, as you can imagine, we've got our hole saws, okay? With our power change adapter, meaning you can really quickly, easily remove the material and pop that back on again. So this will be really useful for, maybe not this size for the 12 volt, but for the 18 volt, something like this, which is a 35 mil multi, again, carbide teeth here. This is your multi-construction one, or yes, this is a multi-construction one. We've also got the multi-material one for working in different kinds of material, all the way up to bricks. And if you use the other one, the multi-material, then you can work in things like metal. So plenty of extra options, nice and fast with the power change adapter system. Now, very briefly, they talked about some of the accessories that we have out there that we could expect you to use with all these different types of tools. Now, one of the tips that I've always noticed, let's use the 18 volt one, which I've noticed that many people do, and I actually quite like it. It's a very smart way of using the system, essentially, is if you've got numerous different bits, for example. I see a lot of people out there that like to run like this. So they'll have their FlexiClick set up like this for drilling, and then maybe they'll have a completely different one. They'll use the offset adapter here for your screw driving, right? And the advantage here is you can quickly drill your hole, right? And much quicker than changing the bit, is you can put on the heads. You can keep that as it is there, that way. So if you're doing loads and loads of holes, or you've got a number of different things to do, and you don't want to do them one at a time, so to speak, you want to do each one separately, you work like that. It's almost like you've got 2 tools, right? Almost, not quite, but you're not carrying 2 tools. You've got 2 different heads, and I like to see there's a lot of people that like to run that way, especially with things like the 12 volt, because you've got the advantage here that you've got the dedicated hex holder here that you could just pop that off, pop that on. What can I use with here? Let's use a bit here. So a really good advantage there if you're wanting to work quickly without as much hassle. Don't want to have to swap machines or have an impact driver with your impact wrench, for example, or impact driver with your drill driver, but you want to swap these out really quick. Just like that. Okay, right, I don't want to go on too much. I think we've covered everything we need to cover when it comes to both the 12 volt and the 18 volt FlexiClick system. We've covered all the different accessory heads. We've covered what kind of people, what kind of applications might use it, and also we had a little bit of time to look at some of the different accessories, which again, you know all these accessories. If you don't know already, then you need to look at some of the previous live streams we've had looking at the entire drill driver range, looking at some of the accessories as well. We've covered the 12 volt range and the 18 volt range where these all featured. So there's plenty of information out there, but we really thought that FlexiClick really needed a focus, because despite the fact that there's a lot of you guys out there in the chat that know it, you sing its praises, and many times when we go to shows and we sell out because people just aren't aware. And we show them very quickly how quick and easy it is to change the heads, how close the offset adapter gets, how we can build a nice complicated a train of all these different bits to make your life really easy. And then they're like, why have I not heard about that sooner? So that's why we thought we'd do a live stream on it. If you've got any recommendations on any live streams or any topics that you would like us to cover this year, feel free to keep telling us on our social channels what topic would you like us to talk about. I already know that we are needing to do one on our FSN guide rail system, but there's a surprise, or there's something coming in the future, which is the reason why we haven't done it yet. So stay tuned for an FSN guide rail special. We might even get a guest star for that, someone you might recognize. That'll be coming in the future. But if there's any other topics, feel free to let us know. So, Ella, any last questions before we wrap up for today?
We have a few questions unrelated to the FlexiClick, but just quickly jumping back to the question about the GGS. Danny said the GGS 28LC straight grinder has speed selection.
Yes.
So just thought I'd throw that out there.
I wasn't sure whether or not we're looking at 18 volt or not, because in my mind we're always thinking cordless, but thanks, Danny.
We've got a question from James asking, do we have an attachment for a grinder to make 90-degree angle into a curve edge on metal?
On an angle grinder?
Yes.
I might be being dumb here. Can you not just turn the grinder? I mean that way? Well, no, is my answer to that. As far as if I understand the question correctly, and you can double check if I'm making it up, and Danny might be able to make a comment too. If I understand your question accurately, my answer would be no to that, not currently.
PF Cutters is asking, how about a 14-inch 18-volt bi-turbo brushless abrasive chop saw?
They're making it difficult for you today,
Sorry,
aren't they?
It's a bit of a mouthful.
I'm trying to think if we've got one coming or if there's any mention of it. For metal, some metal abrasive cut-off saw. That would make sense. I've not seen any plans for it. We've got two mains powered model, or we've got one mains powered model in the range already. That's the 2000. But I haven't seen anything yet. However, it is one of those tools that is important for what we call one of our target product types, and it's to do with drywallers and wall fitments. Partition walls and stuff like that, and obviously that kind of tool is actually quite useful for those kinds of applications. So I'm hoping that yes, in the very near future we'll have a cordless metal chop saw for that kind of application, abrasive chop saw. But I've not seen any update yet.
Someone has said they would like to see a metal chuck head on the 12-volt FlexiClick.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that a little bit. It'll probably still be a 10 mil again, because typically within the 12 volt range, 10 mil is as big as we want to go. It would be nice to have one that's a bit more robust potentially, but don't get me wrong, the 12 volt chuck is still really well made. It's in line with all of our 12 volt impact drivers and combis as far as I'm aware. We still use this high density plastic. It's a glass reinforced fibre. I think it's GF 3060, I believe. I'm going to check off the top of my head. But it's the same plastic we use for everything on our bodies to make sure they're really tough. Yeah, GF 30 PA6. So it's a very high quality glass reinforced fibre plastic, but not metal yet. But maybe coming.
And the last question is, are there any new 12 volt impact drivers as well as 18 volt cordless hot glue guns in the works?
Any 12 volt impact drivers I've not seen, and glue guns, no, not yet, unfortunately. I haven't heard anything about any type of glue gun. That kind of upsets me a little bit. DIY, you've got glue guns. Pro, not yet. And I haven't seen anything on the roadmap. But that kind of product's the kind of thing that sometimes will just appear. We've already got the technology when it comes to our DIY brand. We could quite easily ruggedize that and make it a bit more professional, perhaps. So it could be those could be one of those kinds of tools that suddenly just appears on my desk one day as a marketing sample, and I've heard nothing about the lead up to it. So maybe, potentially. Impact drivers 12 volt, no, as I answered already. However, there is something really interesting and something that I'm really looking forward to coming in the 18 volt range. So if you're looking for a very compact, but still powerful impact driver or wrench, and you're okay to jump up a little bit to the 18 volt, then there's something really fun, really nice and compact, but really powerful coming. So stay tuned. Okay, so I think we're out of questions. I think we did quite well for time, so I think we did all right, Ella, without Danny. I think we did okay, although he was still there virtually somewhere else, somewhere in Scotland on the net. They have internet up there, clearly, wherever you are, Danny. Okay, so I think we'll call it there. We will release whatever the next live stream is going to be about. Do we know, Ella, what's the next live stream going to be? We discussed it earlier in the week, didn't we? I put you on the spot. What we'll do, don't worry, as like this live stream, we'll advertise it shortly, so you guys will be aware. Oh.
Sorry, I've just remembered jigsaws.
Ah, yes, this will be a fun one actually. We've been waiting to do this one. We're going to look at our 18 volt, or maybe 12 cordless. Maybe if we've got time, we'll have a look at some of the corded machines because they're still excellent machines despite being corded. We'll look at our 12 and 18 volt range of jigsaws, and we'll see if we can include something to look at some of the blades, because off the top of my head, I think we're looking at something mad like 130 different kinds of blades, obviously different lengths, but amongst that, there are loads of different specialist blades that we would like to try and show you some of our favorite ones as well to help you select the best one for speed or finish. So that'll be a really good one. It's almost probably going to be a special. So if you're into your jigsawing or into your woodworking, or if you know someone who is, let them know that the next live stream that we're going to be doing is a special on jigsaws and jigsaw blades. So cool. Until then, I guess, thank you very much from myself.
Thanks, guys.